everyone, it's Carla from Bound to Be Vintage. Welcome back for another thrift haul today. I'm going to use the hashtags Thrifty Thursday and Thrifted Treasures. Those are open collaborations hosted by Sheree at Turquoise Dreaming and Dale at Not Too Shabby Chic, and I will put their information in my description box below. If you're wondering what this grungy vintage background I have going on is, it's called a flong, and it is a part of the printing process from days gone by. If you've been watching my channel, or if you haven't, you'll find out today that I've been living in Des Moines, Iowa about a year, and I love hunting for vintage items, and especially those with some Iowa history, and I love printing related items, and this one matches the bill. I found these at a vintage sale in an old building from the 1800s, and this particular item would have been used to print a page in the Des Moines Tribune back in 1932. August of 1932 is the date up in the corner of the paper. And you can see this big ad for Ivory soap. And then this is the sanitary market where pork steaks were 7.5 cents. So this is all an impression that was made of the type, and then apparently some other kind of plate was made and put on the printing press to actually make the final print. So I have a number of these, and I thought, well, I'll just use that for a background. It's pretty interesting. So that is called a flong, F-L-O-N-G, for anybody who's interested in knowing. Let me show you some other vintage items that I got. And one of the best things that you can get is free items. If you tell friends and family that you make junk journals, a lot of times they'll run across things that they don't want, or maybe they're cleaning out a home of an older relative or something like that, and they have things that they'll be glad to give you because they just want to get rid of them. In my case, my son-in-law works for a business that has used items come through, and sometimes there are paper items that they absolutely have no use for, so they're just going to go in the trash. So he's amazing and saves them for me, and these are a couple of my favorites from the latest batch that he gave me, and they were all camera related things. This little booklet is for a Kodak Retina camera. And it's just fun because it has all those little tabs that we junk journalers love so much. Great old vintage photos and graphics. And I think these pages would be great to use in a junk journal, or even you maybe could create a little booklet from this. And let me see if I can figure out a year. I'm not sure. It's not going to have a copyright in it, but it is quite old. And it's just a nice little booklet. Like I said, I especially like all those fun tabs. And then this was a piece that is just for your depth of field, like a chart, but it has such wonderful patina. I think that it would make a great journaling card with some collaging on it. And again, I'm not sure what year it's from, but all of these things were from much older cameras. So those are my two great freebies. Then I went to an antique mall with my daughter. I did pick up a couple of photos. I like this woman in her ornate lacy blouse and her big hat. And then these two ladies in their white gowns with the little pins across the throat area. And then I found this Singer sewing book. Recently I'd found one from the 1960s. It wasn't Singer, it was another sewing book that had some great images in it. I was happy to get this one at the antique store. I paid much more for this at the antique store than I did for the one at the flea market. I think the flea market one was $1. But I was happy to have this one because this one is from the 1950s. Oh, I was trying to find the copyright here. I can't remember. It was 1953 and 4 are the copyrights. And they're just lots of great little illustrations that can be used in sewing journals as pages or for journaling cards. There are a few color illustrations like this that are a lot of fun. And there were, let me see if I can find them. You know how it is when you're trying to find something on camera. I should have marked it ahead of time. But there are some drawings of women that have a wonderful vintage feel to them. Well, here you can see the Sewing for Infants, the art with the babies. And then here we go. I really like these drawings. So that would be a lot of fun to use in future sewing journals. And that was the Singer Sewing Book. And then this next item is vintage, not really antique. It's from 1999. But I picked this up at the Goodwill in their book section. It's Mary Emerling's Smart Decorating. And I used to be a big Mary Emerling fan, and then I kind of moved away from the more primitive style. But there were some photographs in here that I thought would work really well in a junk journal, especially with kind of these ladies, kind of a homespun feeling maybe. Like these aprons. And then this one here. They do have some shine to them. I don't know what I would do about that. I might just let it go. I've seen people do a little light sanding and then maybe a little gesso over it. I've seen people decoupage sewing pattern paper or a tissue paper that's kind of an off-white over the photograph to give it less shine. I don't know if I'd try those or not. We'll see. When I get around to that journal, it'll be an experiment. Then I picked up a few, I guess I'll call them sewing notions or fabric items. I picked up these two little appliques with Valentine's Day coming up. I just thought they might be sweet on a project. I picked up 2 packages of seam binding. These were all wrapped in their original plastic wrap. I just took it off for the sake of getting rid of the glare. If you're new to junk journaling, seam binding ribbon is great to use as a tag topper, to wrap around a small journal as a closure. And when I look for seam binding, the packaging gives you an idea that it's vintage by the price and things like that and the graphics. But what I really look for is for it to say 100% rayon. And you can see both of those say that. Because those are the most beautiful to me. They're the most like silk, as opposed to the later ones that have polyester in them. So I always look for the 100% rayon. You also want to make sure that your package doesn't say that it's an iron-on seam binding, because the back is coated with a glue that's activated by the heat of the iron. So unless you do want to iron it on, it's not going to work well at all to make bows and ties and things like that. So this is kind of a restock for me. I have a stash of it, and red, of course, is a great color at Christmas, and this teal was just pretty. They're always so vibrant and shiny and soft when you get this 100% rayon. I picked up these 2 masks at our consignment store. I don't know if they were for Halloween or Mardi Gras. They could be Dollar Tree items for all I know, but I just thought they were cool, and they could work in a Halloween journal, Mardi Gras journal, a masked ball, all type of different things. They do have the ribbons to tie them on, and I would use them in a journal. They'd be great on a cover. I did get 2 of them. This one's very long. This one would be a little bit harder to incorporate into a journal, but I like the differences between the 2 patterns. So I just grabbed both of them. Then this is a vinyl. I guess this one's actually kind of a runner. It's bigger than a placemat and smaller than a tablecloth. And this is plastic lace. And these are great for coffee dyeing paper, getting it to have a lacy design. And I'm trying to build up a collection of these, and come spring, I want to coffee dye a whole bunch of different papers in all these different lace designs and have a stash. I have to do the dyeing out in my garage, and it's a little too cold right now to be out there dyeing papers, so it'll probably wait till spring. And I'm interested to try this one because it has this little kind of embossed whiter area on it, if you can see that. And I'm interested to see what that's going to do, if that design will show or how that's going to work. I don't have any that have that kind of extra kind of frosted look to it. The important thing when you're looking for these at a thrift store is to make sure that it actually has holes. You can see my finger can poke through, and it's like a die cut. It's got holes all the way through it. There are some that look like they have holes, but they don't. Those aren't going to dye the pattern on your paper. You definitely want the ones that have the cutouts. So I picked that up to add to my spring project list. Then my next category is kind of papers, stationery, sticker, things like that. I picked up this wrapping paper, a vintage wrapping paper. It was from American Greetings. I have no idea when. It was 99 cents at the time. It was 59 cents at the thrift store. And it's just a vintage pattern of men's items. Unfortunately, American Greetings kind of skimped on this, and there's virtually no repeat to this. It's pretty much the same design over and over and over, as you can see. I was hoping when I opened it up that the repeat was not that close of one and I'd get more images. But for 60 cents, it'll still get a lot of good use. Just fun vintage images. And I do have a masculine journal plan for the future, so that will come in handy. At the consignment store, I picked up a couple packages of these Rebecca Sauer Nostalgiques, I guess you would say it, by the Sticko Company. They're stickers. And this one is all keys and locks. And the other one has to do with calendars, watches, the hands for watches and clocks. And I had picked up a pack of these years ago that was a different theme. And I don't know if these are even made anymore or not. I don't shop for stickers in the craft stores. But I let them sit for quite a few years, actually. And more recently, I've been using them, and I'm really happy with them. They're very matte. I do ink the edges, so they blend into the page a little better. And then if they're not as sticky because I've handled them to ink them, I'll apply a little glue and put it down with glue and not rely just on the adhesive that came with it. But they do have a very nostalgic look, and I'm enjoying incorporating the stickers into collages and pages. So I went ahead and picked these up. Another thing I always look for at thrift stores is good quality paper. I print on parchment paper by Southworth quite a bit. And I know when I purchased it at Walmart, it was $7+. And a lot of times I can find it at thrift stores in their stationery or office supply area quite cheap. And a lot of time the boxes are nearly full. Maybe somebody just printed a couple resumes back in the day before everything went electronic or something like that. But this was 99 cents, and this one has 25% cotton. So it's really got a nice texture to it. It's watermarked. So it's a very interesting paper just to have some different kind of paper to print on, or just to include as a page in your junk journal. And you can see the box is nearly full, and that was 99 cents. And I found a lot of really good paper items in my thrift store. I can find labels, I found tracing paper, I found onion skin paper, just all kinds of different papers to add variety to the journal and for different printing backgrounds. So don't forget to check out the office supply section of your thrift store if you're not already, because you can really get some nice papers at much less than they'd be if you paid retail. I did pick up a few scrapbook or pattern paper items from Kaiser Craft. This one's called With Love. There's quite a bit of it left. It has some foil pages that I won't use, but I really like this butterfly print and some of the small prints that aren't foiled. It's really pretty tiny florals. I really like this sort of damask page. I have a ribbon that's very similar to that. It's a very sweet little floral. So I did pick that up. Pattern paper is another thing I just don't really buy in the craft stores. Most of the time I really don't like paying the price, but I do pick up odds and ends that I find at thrift stores. I also found a package for 99 cents of just some scraps of this coordinated paper. There are not a lot of full sheets, but I liked the patterns. And I like the patterns particularly on these little cutoffs. And they are two-sided. I like blue, so I can always use blue in my journals. But the nice thing about these little cutoffs is this is enough that it could be a pocket on the bottom of a page. You could score it so it has gussets and has a wider pocket, thumb notch it, and then decorate it. It could be a side tuck, there's room for that. It could be a belly band if you did further decoration on it in the middle. But also it works, it's wide enough that it would work with a bunch of my dies. This is that Sizzix one that gives you all the little slots that you can store tickets or small ephemera in and then do a label here. It fits for that, so I can make up some slots. It fits on this specimen slide die, so I could have that kind of background on specimens. And I also have a mini library pocket. That's the card, and then there's the pocket. And the nice thing about using a two-sided paper is that after you cut this, this part flips up. So I could cut it like that, and I would have that plaid in the background. It would already be nice and decorated with the back side of the paper. So it's worth it to me to pick up even scraps, because even pretty small scraps can be put to good use with some of the dies that I have. And then the last two things that I have are sort of some basics. I picked up this ruler. It just seemed like a very nice ruler to use to cut fabric, see-through, lots of markings. This was a couple dollars, and I think it retails for closer to 10. So I just grabbed that for my ruler collection. I like having this kind of ruler to do rotary cutting on fabric. And then last but not least, this was probably the best find of all as far as thriftiness goes. And this is a We Are Memory Keepers stamp press. And what this does, if you're not familiar with it, is it allows you to restamp. So if you don't get your stamp image as clear as you'd like it to be, as filled in as you'd like it to be, you can restamp and it keeps it in place. You can also do layered stamps. And for some reason, they priced the bottom part at 99 cents and the top part at 99 cents, but $2 was a great price for these. It has the little foam pad to help your stamp make a good impression. That was there. Somebody had carefully taped down the two little magnets that hold your paper in place. So it is complete. And you just put your stamp on here, ink it, and then you line that up and press it down, and that's what assures that you're going to stamp in the same place every time if you need to redo your stamp or if you're doing layers. Ideally, I would have liked one that was hinged and that was more an 8.5 by 11 size, but I've never wanted to fork over the money for those. So I'll make do with this little $2 one. I sure appreciate you joining me today. Please like, subscribe, comment, help my little channel to grow, and I'll see you soon when I have a new project or another thrift haul to share. Bye.